Alright, I knew it. I talked too long about other things. So, anyway, I'm just gonna cut off maybe in 15 minutes. I want to get to the point now with this. So many things that tie into the subject, but I want to get to the point of what causes straight men to want underaged girls or pre-puberty children. So, what causes that? And so again, their wives are disconnected. Their wives are not. They're disconnected from their inner children. They're also that then of course it will be perceived as bitchy, catty, skinny, trophy wife that just like they weren't even into her really physically to begin with. It was a trophy wife thing. It's all this facade type of behavior, right? So that they're not really into her sexually, they're not really into her emotionally. So then there's absolutely no connections between these people. And then they wonder why they're looking on the internet, for to find another date or to get something else, to find a more innocent or more connected person, someone who's more real. So they masturbate over the chubby women and then they're ashamed about it. Then they look for another trophy wife that may be a little bit more what connects them to them. And then it's again the same initial connection of trophy wife achievement, and then it falls apart after a very short time. So I'm not going to get into the what's case now. I want to stick to the subject now, try to focus, so what I think is why the men fantasize about, or many men, not all, it's still a minority, but it is a shocking percentage. I don't know how high, maybe 20%, I don't know. So that's what it seems like. But the reason why they get into this, and the same with the gay men that often become religious clergy figures, because they think that way they can kill their gayness, or they don't have to ever be, they don't have to, they can be seen as legitimate, or they don't have to marry a woman because they don't want to marry a woman. So then they can be legitimately not marrying a woman, and they can secretly then have their little followers of little boys and so on. So what makes these men reach for children in general, whether gay or straight, is that for the gay priest it's the availability of these innocent boys that can't defend themselves, that are worshiping them, that are caught in this religious situation. This is horrific, okay, but also because of their innocence. So, and also because they're real. There's realness in it. And there's also the realness that they were not allowed to live. So then it becomes a fantasy. And in the straight man too, it's the innocence in these children. It's the non-sexual behavior, this there's no agenda. They don't want your money. They don't want to seduce you. They don't come at you for selfish reasons of self-gratification or pleasure. There's this innocence, and I'm not saying that sex is not innocent, okay? That's another misunderstanding of society. There's the convolution again. So there's nothing wrong with sex and lust. We just have to, if we heal, then we can embrace it and do this in a real way, in a natural way, the way it is good, the way it really feels good. That also then will contain more love, So it will contain also real love. You engage in a sexual act, and if it's some and if there's realness, then you can also love that other living being, love her cells or his cells. So that's what I'm aiming at. That's where I want humanity to go to. I hope this makes a lot of sense. So in the straight man, it's this, their wives are disconnected. They are playing their trophy wives or whatever, or they're being mean, they're being disconnected, they're unhappy, they don't even feel sexual, they're under so much stress, they get migraine headaches, and so on and on and on and on. And there's an agenda, they want money, they want their husbands to keep the job, and they see the condition, the love that is conditioned in this, which is not love, and then they don't feel a connection to them. They actually feel like they're against them, or they're working against them, or there's just no tenderness anymore, or never was. And so then they reach out, they see these children, still being connected, still being themselves, still being real, making grimaces and playing and being wild and in a good and peaceful way. And that triggers something in them. They see there's this abundance, of being themselves. So instead of becoming conscious, why that triggers something, that some yearning, they will sexualize it. So because they don't want to become conscious about their childhood pain, Michael Jackson, that's another example. He sees these boys, he sees the innocence of it and the playfulness that he was never allowed to be and never allowed to live. His dad was so violent that he threw up out of fear of his dad. He never had a childhood. And that applies also to many other people of many walks of life, many different cultures. Okay. So this is a common human neurosis. And I want people to understand this. So then they see this child that is still, to the most part, at least children already get brainwashed on pretty early on, like at age 6, already pretty much stamped into the template of religion and social stuff. That's where they start bullying others. So they're already in the fascism. But to the most part, they're still soft, and they still get excited about, there's still some tentacles out there to playfulness and being connected to themselves, to their inner child, which they still are. So they're still, to the most part, they live their inner child at that age, right? And then they just drift more and more apart from that inner child as they grow older, and that's a real tragedy. Okay, that's a real tragedy. We need to look into this more carefully. Okay, and we need to go into meditation. And when you go into meditation, then there's no more need to fulfill any society's neurotic needs, as long as we are peaceful and loving, and as long as you don't touch a child inappropriately. Don't make it into like don't make this into like now I need to withdraw from the drug or something, because it is an addiction. What I mean is become aware that this destroys that living being. And in this awareness of it, and in your love that you have in that moment, you see yourself in that being, you know, then there's no way you can do this. There's no way you can continue to touch a child inappropriately or be violent to a child in any way. You cannot, because you see that will destroy that living being. That will destroy her or his future. So, become aware. In the moment you become aware, you cannot hurt another living being anymore, animal or child. You just can't do it. You know that we are all one in this way. It's true, So the other being is me. I hope that makes a lot of sense. You are the dog, the rabbit, the horse, the child. We're not separated, okay? It's one matrix of life, and once you become aware of it, you cannot ever touch a child again in this way and take her innocence, her child happiness away from her. You cannot, okay? So I hope that makes a lot of sense. You guys take care. Bye.